Going back to the Nick Friedel tweet, the NBA has got to be absolutely praying the Lakers and the Knicks win tonight, right? The NBA, Adam Silver might have made a call. He might have made a call to the referees and say, hold on. Give that boy that timeout. Welcome back to the Kenny Beecham podcast, y'all. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different, man. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone specifically for you. You know, I've been dilly-dabbling, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work for the Kenny Beecham podcast. And I figured the thing that's going to resonate the most is when I get uncomfortable. And the most uncomfortable I can get is trying to rank the futures of NBA teams. Yeah. Today, I decided to look at the 30 teams that are across the association as of 2023 and try to figure out in the next 3 to 5 years who has the best outlook. Again, that is something I normally wouldn't do, but I like to look at other people's rankings, react to other people's rankings, but I don't normally step out of my comfort zone to do it. Today is the day. We also got to talk about the in-season tournament because we are down to our last 4 teams. Somebody soon will be crowned the inaugural, I still don't know if I ever pronounced that word right, NBA Cup champions. As Giannis said in his post-game interview, the rich will get richer because a lot of people are taking home $500,000 each. We got to talk about the things that have worked, that haven't worked. I also got my favorite segment. As y'all know, #AskKB, where you go into X or Twitter, go in the comment section of these episodes and ask a question with the #AskKB. And I try my hardest to pick some of the best or my favorite ones every single episode. And we also got some players that are unhappy with their roles. And we got to talk about what that means for certain teams. I want to remind you that we are on our quest to become the #1 basketball podcast in the world. And you know what? We took a big step back. Yeah, that episode or that week of no episodes really took us down the standings. You know, I think at one point we were number 6. Before I got sick, before Thanksgiving, we were at number 6 or number 7 on the charts. And you go that long without an episode, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. We dropped down to the mid-20s. And again, mid-20s is crazy when you think about how many podcasts there are, but like, what's the goal? So I need you to leave a like, subscribe, go over to Spotify, go over to Apple, pre-download those episodes, listen to them if you want. I also want to say I appreciate all the support on the Nas Reed episode that we dropped a couple days ago. If you have not watched that episode, I really do recommend it. We didn't have them for very long, but I feel as though we got them to smile a little bit, had a little bit of fun, but I do recognize the criticism on that was like, hey, Kenny, you only had Nas Reed on the show for 13 minutes and 42 seconds because one of y'all actually counted it. Or I guess you probably just did some math. Either way, I promise you that the next guest we get, which is already in pencil, I say in pencil because they're NBA players, they're traveling, this and that. I can't say for sure, but I promise that when that player comes on, it will be a full-length, complete interview because there were so many things I wanted to talk to Nas about, but because of his time restraint and because he was in a car and everything, I couldn't really get into it like that. The next guy, I will, all right? I think we have to start off talking about the in-season tournament because we did get down to our last 8 teams. It was the first knockout round, and all of the games brought their own different things. I don't really want to go too far in the past and talk about games from 4 or 5 days ago, but I will like kind of preview the final 2 games, I guess 2 of the final 3 games because you do got to get the championship. So on the Eastern Conference side, we have the Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. This is so interesting because there was a tweet by Nick Friedel that went, I won't even say viral because virality, it doesn't really happen in NBA Twitter unless it's like, here are some highlights or here's a deep dive into what Ime Udoka said about LeBron James. But like as viral as it can get in like the little bubble that is NBA super nerds. Nick Friedel said the NBA has got to be absolutely praying the Lakers and the Knicks win tonight. Who is going to watch, let alone pay to see the Pacers and the Bucks play at 2 p.m. or 2 Pacific time? Yeah, on Thursday afternoon in Vegas. And Nick Friedel got absolutely cooked for this. And Nick, hey, listen, I've been there before. You know, I done got cooked on Twitter multiple times. You know, it's just part of the game. But this is not necessarily talking about Nick specifically, but overarching talking about like the idea of the way the NBA markets their teams and their players. Now, I do believe that the NBA is in a league of its own when you compare it to like the MLB or the NFL, in the sense that they do a very good job of marketing the players. And because of that, individual people at home kind of have the attachment to LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. They can't necessarily say that they're a Lakers fan or they're a Suns fan or a Warriors fan, but they really do love Steph Curry and all these other players. So that's an advantage that the NBA has. But the downside to all of this is this idea and sentiment that Nick is putting out, where like when you do have some smaller market teams playing against each other, specifically like a team like the Indiana Pacers, who are a young, fun team that just beat the Boston Celtics, because the way you market your team, your league, that team gets kind of left in the dust to the casual NBA fan, right? The other night against the Boston Celtics was the first time we've seen the Indiana Pacers play on national TV in the Tyrese Halliburton era. And that feels inexcusable. Not in the sense that Tyrese Halliburton is a super duper star player just yet, but when you talk about futures of the NBA trying to get the usher in the next generation as Bron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, even though they feel like they're going to play forever, as they start to slow down and get out the league, it is imperative that we do market these younger players and these smaller market teams. So this idea that Nick brings out to the table, also, it is an L on his part, but I think there is some truth to this where the NBA is like, man, we would definitely rather have one of the bigger market teams be there, even though I would 100% watch the Bucks over watching the Knicks. I was happy the Bucks won this game. You know what I'm saying? Because Pacers versus Bucks in itself is a game that I think the world will probably enjoy more, because these are two of the top 5 offenses in basketball. But I do, again, like I said, I think that the in-season tournament in itself, right? The in-season tournament in itself is about money at the end of the day, right? It's about keeping people engaged early in the season, but it's no coincidence that the in-season tournament sprung upon us the year before the TV deal was over. It's no coincidence that the NBA is kind of looking at what the MLB did, giving the rights to specific games to Apple TV, or looking at what the NFL did, giving some rights to Amazon and this and that, and say, hey, what if we create this whole different tournament that like we think can be successful, and then when this new TV deal is up, we can maybe have Amazon exclusively get the in-season tournament, or have Netflix that they want in on basketball. I don't even know how that would work, but I also didn't understand how Amazon would work. So it is no coincidence that it is about money at the end of the day. So Nick, again, as I also dunked on him too, my apologies. But I think there is a little bit of truth to this, in the sense that they're trying to get the highest ratings possible, the most sold tickets possible, because this is the inaugural one. Am I saying that right? And they also want to sell it in about a year's time. Also, I do just hate the fact that this is kind of the way some people live their NBA fandom, where they are looking at like the numbers of like the people watching instead of just enjoying basketball. Oh, that's corny. Either way, let's get back to Pacers versus Bucks, because I'm so very excited about this game. Because the Indiana Pacers, the biggest question mark about the Pacers all year long is like, can they get stops when it matters the most? There's no question this is a team that is going to run, they're going to gun, they have a system, and his name is Tyrese Halliburton. But then again, they had a game against the Miami Heat last week, right? This is before their game against the Boston Celtics. Tyrese Halliburton is out with a respiratory infection and a knee thing, whatever. And they go against the Miami Heat. And I didn't watch the game because I kind of assumed, based on the history of when Tyrese Halliburton was out for games, the Pacers suck. I mean, the last time they played against the Boston Celtics before the in-season tournament, they ended up losing by 50 without Tyrese. If you look at their record post-All-Star last year, when Tyrese missed a significant amount of time, they were awful. And then in this game against the Miami Heat, the system kind of traveled. TJ McConnell had like 20 and 10 off the bench. I'm like, hold on. Maybe it's not just, I never want to give the entire team success credit to one player, but like, there are players across the association that we talk about being the system. Tyrese has been that. Maybe it's a little bit deeper than that, which is kind of cool. The biggest question around them was, can they get stops? in this game against the Boston Celtics, again, I don't want to reopen that game up because it's been a couple days now. The crowd was electric, but when it mattered the most, they were able to get stops. Some of that was just poor shooting from Boston, where if you look at the shot quality of the Boston Celtics, it was relatively high. It's not like the Indiana Pacers forced them to 7 straight turnovers on 24-second violations. Like, they got quality looks for the most part, but the Pacers also got the timely stops. And this was going to kind of turn into a different conversation for me, where I don't know, and I'm just spitballing at this point. I don't know if we're about to see a shift and what is considered to be a really good team, right? Now, the Pacers, I think they're still a ways away. I'm not looking at the Pacers and say, hey, that's a championship contender. Hell, they got to make the playoffs for the first time before we start to do any of that. But if you look at like last year's Denver Nuggets, who set around league average defensively, but was a really good offense, that has historically not been a recipe to win a championship, right? To really even compete at the highest level. For the most part, throughout the history of hoops, it's like we got to have top 10 on both sides. And if we don't have top 10 on both sides, for the most part, we're going to lose a 7-game series at one point. The Denver Nuggets, I don't know if they're an outlier or they are the shift in the meta. I don't know. Only time will tell. We got to see who this year's champion is, right? I still think the Boston Celtics are the favorite, or my favorite, to win the championship. And they're a team that sits as top 10 in offense and defense, but maybe my thinking is just a little bit outdated. I don't really know. Time will tell. But them being able to sit down and get stops when it mattered the most made me excited, because this is a team that when you talk about their offensive firepower, they're fun to watch. But the opposite side of that, as a guy that loves defense, that makes it horrible at times. But when you see them in games and able to really buckle down, I love it. We also saw the same thing about the Bucks. Now, the Bucks shot historically well against the New York Knicks. Like, they hit a crazy amount of three-pointers, like 60% three-point shooting. But the one thing about the Bucks, like, the defense has always been a question this season, right? Will they be able to get stops when it matters? So on and so forth. The answer is yes. If you look at their defense in the last 2 weeks, it's at 16th. Just looking at the last 2 weeks sample size, kind of get rid of the first 3 weeks that they were trying to cohesively get together. It's got to about 16th. Okay, that's eerily similar to what the Denver Nuggets was doing last season, and they have one of the top offenses in basketball. But specifically, because I think this is where it matters the most. Like, we can look all we want at the overall defensive rating, offensive rating, so on and so forth. We sometimes should probably just look at, hey, fourth quarters, clutch moments. Are they getting the stops there? You know? And the Bucks right now, the answer is yes. When it comes to clutch defense, first of all, they have the best clutch record in all of basketball. I think they're 9-1. Again, this Knicks game doesn't count as clutch, but just in general, just think about in general the overarching, the umbrella of the Milwaukee Bucks for the future. They have the second best clutch defensive rating at a 97.5. They are completely shutting the faucet off when it matters the most. And on the flip side of that, they have Damian Lillard, who we talked about last week, as maybe the clutch player of the year so far. That's 97.5 defensive rating is second in basketball when it comes to the clutch. And the number one team is the team on the other side of the bracket, which is going to be the LA Lakers. So I think this is going to be a very fun game. As of right now, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, the Bucks are a 4.5-point favorite with a -200 on the money line. The over-under spread is insane. Again, we're talking about two of the best offenses in basketball and two teams that, again, has the history of maybe not being great defensively. I am extremely, extremely interested in this one. Maybe, do I like this matchup more than the Western Conference one? I might have to say yes. Man. 4.5-point favorites. How do I feel about that? I think the Bucks should be the favorite, right? When you think about the amount of talent that they have, specifically with Giannis and Dame. In the last 9 games, Giannis is averaging 31 points per game, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. And the last 9 games for Damian Lillard, Dame is averaging 27 points per game, about 5 rebounds and 8 assists. They're gelling. And they're doing it without running a high pick and roll. Like, much. It's happening 11 times a game. I think it might be the number, but they're able to both do their things. And when you think about Malik Beasley having a really good year and all of that, like, they should be the favorite. 4.5 feels like a fair line at this point. I would, if I was out here, I would probably go money line versus spread. That's where I feel the most comfortable. And I would probably say yes to the money line at -200. That's on FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's go to the other side of things. The Pelicans versus the Lakers. Yeah. This one I'm excited about too. if you watch my other podcast, right? Because if you didn't know, I have two, one by myself and one with the homies. The Pelicans, a point of like argument for me and the guys this offseason was the Pelicans. There were two teams going into this year that I was super high on, kind of taking a leap of faith at the end of the day. The Pelicans was my Western Conference team and the Atlanta Hawks were my Eastern Conference team. I'm missing on the Eastern Conference one. I mean, I just watched the ending of Brooklyn Nets versus Atlanta Hawks. Or I guess I watched majority of the game, not just the ending. It's still a rough watch. They're teetering around 500. Hell, this episode was at one point going to be about being in the middle, and the Atlanta Hawks are going to be a big part of it. But we might have to save that for the future. The Pelicans were the team out west that I felt uber confidence in. Like, hey, this is a team that is as talented as majority of teams across the association. I understand the Zion injury stuff is a big deal. I understand the off the court Zion stuff is a big deal. I understood that Trey Murphy had already got injured. Jose Alvarado had already got injured. This is a team that has always had some significant injury. Well, as of today, everybody's cool. And we got basically two games of that, right? They played against the San Antonio Spurs, smoked them. That was without Zion having a good game. And then they went against the Bulls. There was no Trey Murphy. There was no CJ. That one don't count. But when they're fully healthy, they're 2-0. And both of these games, we haven't needed Zion to be Zion. In the in-season tournament game, he was like, hey, Brandon Ingram, we see you taking some tough shots, playmaking. We're going to let you do your part. The fun thing about the Pelicans right now is because everybody is healthy, we finally get to see Willie Green be able to experiment with lineups where in the in-season tournament game, we saw a lot of Zion at the 5. First game back from Trey Murphy III against the Spurs, we saw a lot of Zion at the 5. And has it looked pretty? Has it looked amazing? Offensively, I enjoyed it. Maybe less on the other side. But those are the type of things they can really experiment with. I was a little bit sad, though, but because they are completely healthy, my guy Jordan Hawkins didn't get no PT. I was so sad. He had been a guy that was been, providing three-point shooting, some spacing for the Pelicans. But now, when you think about, right now they're still missing Larry Nance Jr., but Dyson Daniels, CJ, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, there's just a lot of guards. And when Jayhawk did play, other teams saw him as a small-framed guard, and they went at him a bunch. There was no hiding him. And now I guess he's going to get some DMPs as these other players are more trustworthy defensively. Like the Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels backcourt, and I know it started a bunch before CJ got back. That lineup, that backcourt is just so ridiculous, right? I think the Boston Celtics have the crown for the best defensive backcourt with Derek White and Derek White and Jrue Holiday. But this is off top of dome. I ain't even thought about this much until I'm bringing it up at this moment. When they were starting Herb and Dyson, they gotta be. I'm a play it safe. They gotta be top 5. I'm trying to think of other teams. Actually, just on a tangent real quick. Let me look at standings really quick, just so I can see defensive backcourts. Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs is pretty good. I like that a lot. You know what? I'm just going to say the Pelicans. I'm going to say the Pelicans, and you let me know in the comment section if there's somebody else speaking defensively as a backcourt, because there was a moment in this game versus the Kings. They turned the Kings over a ton in this one. It happened back to back to back. I think De'Aaron Fox had 5 to 6 turnovers at halftime by himself. There was one time they were trying to throw an entry pass to Domantas Sabonis, and it might have been Harrison Barnes throwing it. Must have forgot that Dyson Daniels was leading the league in deflections and completely got into that lane and ended up in an easy bucket. Herb Jones is absolutely everywhere. There was multiple times where he just made up for somebody else's mistake. And I think in real time, I struggle with kind of seeing that happen. But when I go back and rewatch highlights or rewatch in specific moments, I'm like, man, Herb went from a guy that was in help to switch to flying by a defender and then blocking the shot. It's like he's everywhere. So them being able to experiment with the different lineups, Herb is now hitting 3-point shots, which makes him an uber threat. I think he led the team or second in scoring behind Brandon Ingram in that in-season tournament game. I am just very, very bullish on the Pacers. Pelicans. I don't know about the in-season tournaments. I'm just talking, again, the entire season. As long as they can stay healthy, and so far, they haven't been able to do that. If they can somehow get a stretch of health where Willie Green has the opportunity to find different lineups, this team can be super, super scary. And that was what I was saying in the offseason. So to finally see them have a two-game sample size of it being real, I'm happy about it. Trey Murphy III is just incredible. I thought that he would be on a minutes restriction. I thought he might struggle out the gate after missing so much time. No, both games, he's been amazing on both sides of the ball. It's kind of scary how much depth this team has when they're completely healthy. And it's going to be a team that there's not many possessions where you can take off because Brandon Ingram is a bucket. Zion is becoming a more well-rounded player with the playmaking and everything. But they have to go against the Lakers. And the Lakers are like world beaters in this in-season tournament, man. Undefeated still. They ain't lost a game. Now, going back to the Nick Friedel tweet, the NBA has got to be absolutely praying the Lakers and the Knicks win tonight, right? The NBA, Adam Silver might have made a call. He might have made a call to the referees and say, hold on. Give that boy that timeout. No, I think the last 2-minute report came out, and the referee said that the timeout that LeBron James called was the refs did the right thing. It's not, I mean, I'm a neutral fan in this one. I did think that it kind of killed the momentum of the game. But at the end of the day, if it's the right call, it's the right call. I mean, I'm not a ref. I didn't go to school for that. I ain't read their handbooks or anything. So they was having, like, on line 23, on Act 4, they said, no, you just tell me if it was right or wrong. You said it was right? Okay, cool. In this game, Anthony Davis was everywhere. And in the game against the Pelicans that we were previewing, the defensive prowess of Anthony Davis has to be up there. Like, I mean, he has been great all season. If you look at my first month awards, I had him, I think, number 2 or number 3 on DPOY. Like, he's been that great. They're still basically funneling in the offense to Anthony and say Anthony calls a miss, block a shot, and he's been great at doing that. The Pelicans are a drive-heavy team, get to the basket-heavy team. So I wonder, what's going to win? You know, what's going to win? Is it going to be the offense of the Pelicans get it to the basket, or will it be a potential DPOY winner in Anthony Davis? I mean, again, we talked about the clutch defense of the Bucks. The number 1 team in clutch defense so far has been the LA Lakers. Also a team shutting the faucet off completely. So right now, the Lakers are a 1.5-point favorite in this one, which feels, how do I feel about that? I think that's a fair line, mostly because the Pelicans have the ability to win this game for sure. And the money line is only a -122. If I was a betting man, which I am, I would probably go Bucks money line, Pelicans money line to get a little bit of plus money in there and see what happens. Again, I think both of these games are going to be really, really good. Now, when it comes to the in-season tournament, I was trying to figure out what have fans enjoyed versus haven't enjoyed. Obviously, the intensity of the home crowds have been great. The Indiana Pacers set the bar at an all-time high, right? If that game was played in almost any other spot, I don't know if the intensity is that crazy. You're talking about a organization that is hungry for a trophy, and they showed out. And I think that set the bar for pretty much every other game. The one thing, I think I may have mentioned this before, I understand it going to Vegas to have a neutral site. They're kind of experimenting a little bit with seeing what it will be like to have more NBA games in Vegas. Obviously, we have Summer League. We've had an all-star game there, but to have like a winner go home scenario, Adam Silver said he's not even thinking about expansion just yet, at least until they get this next deal done as far as TV deals go. It is no surprise that Vegas will be at the top of their list. There's also no surprise that LeBron James is very interested in Vegas as being a minority owner, a majority owner, whatever it may be. He's super involved in this. So I understand the neutral site, but when I saw the intensity of the crowds of the other games, I kind of wish it wasn't neutral and we can go back to what is the Pacers place called? Hold on, I got it on my notes, don't I? The Gainsbridge Fieldhouse. Take us back to the Gainsbridge Fieldhouse, please. But instead, we're going to be in Vegas. And as a guy that has watched a ton of basketball in Vegas over the last 5 years, being Summer League, the vibes of that is not going to be nearly as good as the vibes as a home court team. Now, the Lakers being so close and the Lakers being one of the biggest organizations in all of basketball, that might feel like a Lakers home game. You feel me? But it won't at the same time because crypto is different than, I forget what the Thomas and Maxson, I think that's where they're going to end up playing at. One of the complaints I did see from fans is like, hey, we like the in-season tournament, but we got to play against a very good team in extra time, right? The Pacers specifically. The Pacers are a team that is going to be competing for a playoff/play-in spot. I don't know where they're going to end up. That's not my decision to make. But as the Eastern Conference is so stacked, the same thing with the Western Conference, you go against the Bucks 4 times a year as is because you're in the same division, and now you have to go against them a 5th time for the in-season tournament. And with them, when you're going against them for a 5th time, let's say you miss being the 6th seed by half a game and you lost this in-season tournament game, Pacers fans like, man, our schedule is just a little bit more difficult than probably what it needs to be. And I don't know if we're going to see a world where we do see there's a half a game difference between the 6th seed and the 7th seed. And oh my God, we lost the in-season tournament game. So now we're in the postseason tournament, the play-in tournament. I don't know. I'm just saying that was one of the major criticisms. I don't know how you fix it. One of the criticisms, like, hey, where the players care, we see it. KD came out and said, hey, at first I didn't really like the idea, but now that I played it, and I can't wait till next season. LeBron James has sung his praises. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton has been very adamant about it. Jason Tatum said he loves it other than the point differential part. There's no question anymore about will the players care? The answer is yes. This portion of the Kenny Beecham podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with winning any $5 money line bet. That is $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. What I would do is look over the full slate of games and try to pick out ones that I think there's a wide margin in talent. For example, the Milwaukee Bucks are going against the Chicago Bulls. The Bucks are playing some of the best basketball in the Giannis and Damian Lillard era, and the Bulls are waiting for their era to end. A $5 money line bet on Milwaukee, if they win, can turn into $150 in bonus bets for you. Or if you don't love that one, the New York Knicks are going against the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons have cemented themselves as the worst team of the season so far, and the Knicks are starting to find their groove. But that's just 2 examples. Maybe you want to bet on your favorite team. It's all up to you. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/Kenny so you can turn dimes into dollars. See what I did there? Before we get into ranking the future teams of the NBA, I wanted to get into my favorite segment. It is the hashtag AskKB. Hit me up on X/Twitter with that hashtag. Put it in the comment section. I'll be down there. I'll be everywhere. I'll be looking for questions, okay? We got 3 really good questions. The first one comes from Neil Sue. And I have a feeling that Neil Sue, we answered one of your questions before. Maybe he was as an A+ question asker. Favorite narrative to watch for the rest of the season? One of my most favorite narratives I'm going to be watching is the age in which the championship teams win. The Denver Nuggets last year were one of the young, believe it or not, think about their roster. They were one of the youngest teams in the history of basketball to win an NBA championship. Their average age was about 27, and that was one of the youngest. I think it was like number 7th or number 8th. If you think about the history of this sport, 70 plus years of it, with 27 average age is young. Right? And you think about all the teams that are towards the top of the Eastern Conference, top of the Western Conference, whether it be the Minnesota Timberwolves, the OKC Thunder, are the Boston Celtics still considered young? Probably not with Drew Holiday and Al Horford or whatever. But for the most part, it feels like youth is running the league at the moment. And I just wonder, are we about to see a shift in like, hey, there's no such thing as too young to win a championship anymore, right? Everybody says that. Even when OKC was doing their thing with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, they were in the finals. And I remember people like, hey, they too young. Brother, they 4 games away. What do you mean too young? But to see so many young teams doing great stuff, even teams that aren't necessarily world beaters right now, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were a top seed last year, that's a really young team, right? Will we see one of the younger teams take the step to win, and will that become the new normal? But also, I mean, the teams that are favorited, if you want to call them that, like the Milwaukee Bucks, I think that's the oldest team in all the association. We mentioned the Boston Celtics on the youngest, but again, I'm thinking that they might be considered an older or maybe middle of the pack team. You get like I guess Denver Nuggets is a year older now than they were last year. The Lakers are an old team. The Suns are old team. The Clippers are old team. I don't know if you consider all of them contenders. The Warriors, older team. So there's a balance right now of really good young teams and also some older teams that might still got stuff in the tank. So I'm just watching to see, will we see a shift? The next one comes from Dylan Moore. Also, I feel like I've seen you before. Is it the same people? Don't only got 4 people asking questions. What the heck? Ask KB, Kenny, what is your advice to a young creator who have to my fault, dyslexia. What is your advice to young creators who have to work a normal job or trying to make it in the YouTube sphere? Treat it like a second job, question mark? Now, I can't give you all the answers, right? But I will say, for every creator that says, oh, I dropped out of school or I quit my job to pursue my dreams and they're as successful, it's just as many or even more people that followed that model that did not hit the point that they want to. I could tell you about my own personal journey real quick. and you make your decision for your life, right? When I was creating content, I was working a job about 30 hours a week. So I was a part-timer and I was in college and I was making content, right? When I quit my job as a part-timer, I was making the exact same money on YouTube versus at the vitamin shop that I was working. So I told my dad, because I'm a freshman in college at this point. I'm still living at home because I went to community college. I didn't move abroad. I didn't move out of the house. I'm like, Dad, here's my paycheck from YouTube. Here's my paycheck from the vitamin shop. It's the exact same number. So if I put my time and efforts on this YouTube stuff, that number might stay the same or it might get bigger, but I don't need to sit here and go to the vitamin shop 30 hours a week right after school when I'm super tired, when I could just put that same effort or even, I guess, less time into YouTube. He said, bet, I trust you. No big deal. The YouTube stuff starts to take off. Mind you, I'm still in college. I'm still grinding these courses. I don't know what the heck I want to do with my life, but I'm at community college, so I'm just getting my gen eds done, and I'm seeing the YouTube stuff be successful. I didn't drop out the moment where my paycheck was okay. I continued to go to college because I still didn't know if YouTube was a real viable option for me. I had known plenty of creators that turned into a full-time job, but I always look at this from, and maybe pessimistic is not the right word, but I try to look at the worst case scenario with these type of things. And when other things happen, the best case scenario, then I'm cool, right? So I'm looking at, okay, my paycheck is like this. It might not last this way, but even if it's 50% of this, I still feel comfortable, right? The moment I stopped going to school, and I'm going to give you some real talk right now. The moment where I felt comfortable with dropping out of school is when I had 4 paychecks in a row. Remember, on YouTube, you get paid monthly for the most part. I have 4 paychecks in a row of 5-figure paychecks. So I'm making $10,000+ a month for 4 straight months. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually going to go overdrive on this YouTube stuff. That was the point where I felt the most comfortable, right? But again, for me, there's a bunch of people that say, hey, I ain't do the college. I didn't do the school. I didn't do the work. I went all in on YouTube, and they have success stories too. But I'm always going to be cautious because social media is fecal. Is that the right word? Ew, that's not the right word. It's thin. It doesn't last forever. You know, especially in the space of being a creator where there's younger and funnier and better creators coming up every single year. You know, your lifespan as creative might be 2 years, and it might be a great 2 years, but it could just be 2 years. I'm lucky enough that this has now been my full-time job since 2017. So what is that? 6 years, going on 7 years of it being like my full-time. And I'm in the minority with that type of longevity, right? So I will always tell you to be safe, have a backup option, because you never really know what's going to happen with the internet. And then last question comes from Nitrous. He says, rank the stadiums you've been to and top 5 you want to go to. Nitrous, that's a very good question. I'm not going to give you my top 5 that I want to go to, but as I was doing my little research, I have been to a total of 11 different arenas across the association. It feels like a lot, but I feel like it's not. As a guy that's been doing media for like, I guess 4 years now as like full-time media, but also we had a pandemic where nobody was going out. Here's my ranking of the 11 arenas that I've been to. This is based on my personal experience, the arena, the food, the atmosphere, all of it, you know, all of it. Okay. Don't get mad at me. Definitely don't get mad because I'm working with teams and I don't want, just because your name is low on this list, I don't want you to think that we can't be cool. We can't work together, but I'm going off my experience, and most of these places only went to one time, right? So maybe it was a bad night. You feel me? Number 11, the bottom of my list is the Spectrum Center of the Charlotte Hornets. I went there for All-Star Weekend in 2019, I want to say. Didn't really enjoy the arena as much as maybe some other people. That's my number 11. My number 10 is the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Now, I want to give a caveat here. I went there when they weren't very good, right? Or they weren't even half really good. I think the year that I went there, Malcolm Brogdon was on the team. So maybe I need to go back to Indy and watch them again. Because the one thing I did like, it felt like a college arena, right? The way the stadium goes up. And I feel like if I was in one of those games where it was rocking, the number 10 would shoot all the way up. But from my experience from that one game, it wasn't really all that. Next, we got the State Farm Arena. I think that's the Atlanta Hawks, right? They recently rebuilt it and everything. It's a cool spot. There was something about the lighting that I didn't like. I went to 3 games there in 3 different trips. So I've been there a couple different times. Again, just because you loan the list don't mean I hated it. It just wasn't the best experience for me. Number 8 was Ball Arena Ball Arena for the Denver Nuggets. I went there for the ring ceremony this season, and the atmosphere was very cool. It was beautiful. I didn't like the actual arena. Atmosphere was elite. The arena, not so much, in my opinion. Number 7 was Wells Fargo for Philadelphia 76ers. Number 6 is the Barclays Center or Arena for the Brooklyn Nets. Number 5 was Rocket Mortgage in Cleveland. Number 4 was the Chase Center. Shout out to the Chase Center. Been there, I think, 3 times now. Ring ceremony days, just a random regular season game versus the Knicks. Good place. I do understand the people that's like, hey, it's so expensive and so rich that it priced the real fans out. Sometimes I get that feel. So again, I've been there 3 times. I got that feel a little bit. Number 3 is my United Center. You know, I was going to be biased, but the UC is actually like that. It really is. Number 2 is crypto.com. I was very close to splitting this up because I've been to 2 Lakers games and 2 Clippers games in that arena. The Lakers games have a better feel. The arena itself is the same, right? It's the Lakers game had the better feel. Actually, one of the games I went to, so I went to 2 for each, and then I went 1 neutral, where it was a Lakers versus Clippers game. It was actually Kawhi Leonard's first game back after the injury. I was at that game, and I was at Kawhi's game where he did get injured against the Utah Jazz. That's kind of crazy. I was at both of those. That's my number 2, and my number 1, nobody's been able to beat Madison Square Garden. I understand why everybody want to go there and try to drop 50. The lighting, the fans, the food, everything about MSG is mwah. It's beautiful. It's best hoops you can get. Now I want to rank the NBA futures. Now, I tried to look at this from a 3 to 5 year outlook of NBA teams. And this is a lot different than ranking young cores, right? It's a lot different than that because I'm not doing that, right? A lot of young teams did not make this list. The Spurs, you got Wemby, did not make my list. There are actually some veteran teams in here because 3 to 5 years from now, I still believe their core will either be intact and still be really good. Now, there are some teams that there's like a cloud hovering above the organization that might prevent me from putting it high, and I'll kind of explain that. Again, these are all subjective. I'm not right. You're not wrong. You know, so leave in the comment section if you were going to rank the NBA futures, what you agree or disagree with. My number 10, I want to talk this through with each other because I got 3 teams at number 10. So really, this is what, top 12? Because I don't know. My number 10 is tied between the Cleveland Cavaliers, the 76ers, and the Kings. 3 teams that are widely different in their future outlook, right? The 76ers are number 10. I'm sorry, the Cavs are number 10 versus being towards the top of the list. Because of all of the rumors about Donovan Mitchell, I cannot help but to keep that in back of mind when I think about 3 to 5 years. And 3 to 5 years, Donovan Mitchell is a free agent, right? He's a free agent. So that holds water to me. That holds weight to me. If it wasn't for that, I feel pretty good about the Cavs. Evan Mobley is still a stud. Darius Garland's a stud. And obviously they have a talented young team. But to think 3 years from now in 2026, he could be in New York or he could be here, that scares me a little bit for the future outlet of the organization. I still feel comfortable enough to at least put him in the conversation, but not good enough to put him at number 10 completely. The 76ers are another team to have a cloud. I love what they're doing right now. Joel Embiid today just had a 50-point game against the Washington Wizards. Tyrese Maxey's looking great, but also another cloud. Hypothetically, if the 76ers lose in the second round again, I know they got some cap space to maybe go sign a max player this offseason, but if they lose in the second round again, who knows what Joel Embiid's mindset is going to be at. I'm not trying to put bad juju in the F for 76ers fans, but again, I'm thinking about 3 to 5 years, and also in 3 to 5 years, Joel Embiid is going to be, 31, 32 years old. I feel good about the way he's going to age, but maybe not as good as I feel about some of the other players aging, you know? And the Kings, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis are both going to get max contracts, right? He declined a two-year, $100 million contract a couple days ago. He wants the Supermax. He's going to get the Supermax. He's worth it at this point. But as they get more expensive, so is the team, because they're going to be eerily close to the second apron with their roster. And I'm just thinking 3 to 5 year outlook. It's really dependent on what Keegan Murray turns into and what additional changes they make to the team. There's rumors that they're going to be buyers this offseason or this regular season, so that might change where they place, all right? Let's get to the top 9. Number 9 is the Indiana Pacers. I kind of looked at this from the sense that I believe that Tyrese Halliburton will blossom into a superstar. Some people might argue he's already there. I'm reserved with the superstar title as of right now. But again, he is a system. One of the things that I don't love about the team is we don't have a definite number 2 for him just yet. And because they are decent, it's not like they're going to go to the draft and end up with a top 5 pick that projects to be that. Now, they could get lucky and draft somebody there with the 19th overall pick or the 20th overall pick. You don't necessarily need a high lottery pick to find a star. But right now, it is Tyrese and a bunch of players who we like, but maybe none of them blossoms to be the secondary all-star that they might need. Number 8 on my list is the Houston Rockets. I wanted to put them higher. I did, but number 8 is the way it's going to be. I genuinely do believe, and I mean this with my whole heart, that Alperen Sengun is going to be a superstar in this league. I just do. Right now, he might be an all-star this season. But I believe at one point he's going to blossom into superstardom. And I also do like a couple other pieces on the Jabari Smith Jr. is a guy that's lower in his overall field goal attempts, minutes, all of these other things, but he's looked better this year than last year, right? There's a lot of things to be happy and excited about for the Houston Rockets. There are a few question marks too. And those question marks are maybe why I don't have him higher. Like Amin Thompson just went to the G League and had a triple-double, almost a 5x5. I need to see what he turns into at least a little bit, but they have the potential to grow the highest on this list because they still have a bunch of young talent that is still trying to figure it out. I know, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm confident in Alperen Sengun's development. It's like, okay, what type of player would Jalen Green end up being in 3 to 5? Jabari, Amin, will Cam Whitmore ever get into the swing of things? So I don't know. I just feel good about Alperen Sengun, and he's carrying that right now. Number 7 on my list, Orlando Magic. Paolo Banchero just said, well, a 40 piece. Oh, one made 3. Good old-fashioned Carmelo Anthony 40 piece. They end up losing the game to the Cavaliers, obviously. But the way they're hooping right now, and you think about the core that they have between the 2 wing players, Anthony Black looks pretty good. What we turn into, again, I don't really know. And with them having draft capital and younger players, I'm not saying this is the year, but they are a team that can swing a little bit. Maybe not for the fences, but swing a little bit to get some more talent in right now while maintaining the young core that they have already put together. Number 6 on my list is the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's a team I wanted to put a lot higher. The reason they are at number 6 is because as good as they are right now, and they are the number 1 team in ball right now, shout out to them. Rudy Gobert is playing great. Karl Anthony Towns has been playing great. I know he didn't have an amazing game versus the Spurs, but he's been playing great as of recent. He's a 50, 40, 90 player. Anthony, I don't need to explain to you how good they've been. You've been watching basketball. They also cannot bring back this same team next season. So the only reason they are number 6 and not higher is because I don't know what move they will make to make this team affordable. That's the thing. Who do they move? What are they moving for is still a question mark. As of right now, they're playing great basketball and we love it, but they have to sit at number 6 because I can't overlook the fact that, you feel me, somebody on one of these core 4, Jaden McDaniels, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, or Rudy Gobert will probably not be on the roster next season. And I just don't know what to think of that. Again, I said probably. I can't say for sure. Number 5 on my list is the Dallas Mavericks. It's really just the Luka Doncic and Derek Lively thing. You know, Luka Doncic just had a 40-point triple-double in, 30 minutes, if that. Now, he did it, right? And I cannot deny the fact that he did it. He did it against the Utah Jazz. I'm going to read you the starting lineup for the Utah Jazz today. If I can, oh my God, click the wrong. I'm going to read you the starting lineup for the Utah Jazz today because it was Keontae George, a rook. He ended up with 11 assists. I need to watch that. Keontae George was a minus 48 tonight. Yep. Ote Abaje was starting at the 2. Simone Fontecchio was at the 3. John Collins at the 4. And Omar Yurtseven was at the 5. You still have to go get your stats. You feel me? 40-point triple-double was nothing to sneeze at. But he did do it against... It might be the worst starting lineup of the league or the season this year. I can't lie to you. It might be dead ass last in starting lineups. But in 31 minutes, 40 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. And got into a mini scuffle versus Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn had liked the fact that he was running up his stats, I would assume. I don't know. I'm just talking. But the fact that Luka Doncic is Luka Doncic. Now, again, I know there is still a somewhat of a cloud over him about the Mavs, and will they be able to put together a good enough team around him where he feels comfortable for being there for the next 3 to 5? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt at the moment and say yes. My number 4 on the list, again, I mentioned how bullish I was about this team, is the New Orleans Pelicans. Also, like everybody, questions. Will Z still be here? Will B.I. still be here? Whoever, whatever. I love the core that they have. I think they're all young enough where in 3 to 5 years, I mean, Trey Murphy III. I mentioned how excited or high I was on Alperinchen going being a superstar. I am almost equally high on Trey Murphy III being an all-star adjacent player. Adjacent. The problem is he's playing the wing spot and they have two wings in their roster that there's also all-star / all-star adjacent. But I believe that he's going to be so damn good that they're going to have to make a big decision and it's going to be around him. And it's going to be them keeping him and maybe sacrificing something else somewhere else. But those are good things to have. When you're too much talent, I like too much talent. Number 3 on my list, the Denver Nuggets. 3 to 5 years from now, I still believe that Nikola Jokic is going to be able to do the things that he's going to do. I still do believe that Jamal Murray is going to be able to do the things he's doing because he's still relatively young. Michael Porter Jr. is having a great season this year. Still believe in him. So, like, there are defending champions right now. And they said that they're not just trying to win one, they're trying to win multiple. And I think that they're a team that can win multiple. My number two. I flipped these last two teams around quite a bit. I flipped them around quite a bit. And now I'm second guessing what I want. My number 2 is the Boston Celtics. It's going to be the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum being one of the top players in basketball, still really young, and Brad Stevens / I guess Danny Ainge before him has always made it a point to build competent to championship quality teams around Jason Tatum. Again, obviously they have not got any jewelry just yet, but they've always been good enough to compete. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon as long as Tatum is on the team. And my number 1 is the OKC Thunder. Best young core in basketball, 17 first-round picks over the next however many seasons. I think that that's probably the easy one, right? I mean, it was between them and Boston. I went with them because they already have the superstars, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Chet Holmgren is turning into a monster. I feel really good about him blossoming into a star one day. Jalen Williams is a stud. I think that Josh Giddey is the odd man out long term. It's just a matter of do you try to get some value for him early versus later. But if we say that their core 3 is Shai, Chet, and J-Dub plus whatever they could get in the Giddey trade piece, I love what they've been able to build, and the now and the future is super bright as well. The last thing I want to talk about is something I'm actually happy came out. I feel like we do not get a bunch of role players, specifically young role players, that feel comfortable enough with expressing their frustrations with their role. The person that did that the other day was Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes aired out his grievances with his role on the Knicks. It feels like if I don't hit a shot, I'm coming out. So every shot I shoot probably weighs like 100 pounds. It's tough going out there and just standing in the corner. It is what it is. We'll see. He has not been very good. Grimes has now missed 11 of his last 21 shots from downtown, a 19% three-point shooting clip over the last 7 games. And after starting the season at 40% three-point shooter, Grimes' efficiency has regressed to below 35%. Tom Thibodeau is a guy that's like, hey, if you're not doing it right, we got somebody else that can. Dante DiVincenzo is that guy at the moment where if Quentin Grimes is not scoring or not hitting the shots, you feel good about Dante being that guy. Last night in the last preseason game, Quentin Grimes didn't see his first shot attempt until the third quarter, and he bricked it, and he got subbed out. So, it's not very normal to see a younger player, a younger role player say, "Hey, I'm not loving the way things are going." As of right now, let me double check this because I came up with this number. I found this number before their game against the Boston. Oh, I'm sorry, who was that? The Milwaukee Bucks. I'm gonna quickly double check this real quick on the fly. Right now, Quentin Grimes has one of the lowest usage ratings of any starter in basketball. It is the second lowest of any starter in basketball. The lowest of a wing / guard player. He's been relegated to a 3-and-D guy, and it for the most part, part of his career has been a successful thing. Not as successful now. Now the shot is not falling as much. And that is taking a toll on him mentally, it seems like. Him being able to go out there and talk about this candidly means something. He said it's just hard to go a whole quarter without touching the ball, a whole second quarter without touching the ball. And then you get one shot and you got to make it. So it's tough going out there and standing in the corner the whole game. Yeah, it's just, there's also the thing. And I want us to play the Shams clip.
So do you hear rumblings? Are the Knicks thinking about it? Are they going to look as we get closer and closer to sort of a trade deadline situation? Will moves be made?
They're monitoring the marketplace. They want to see if there's a star player that's available that they would go all in for. They have 8 first-round draft picks that they can trade, Michelle. 4 of their own, 4 from other teams. So they've kept a lot of their assets. They have a ton of tradable contracts as well. They have a couple young players. We think of guys like Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly. So they've got pieces. If they want to go make an aggressive bid for a superstar player, I think they have what it takes. The question is, do they find the guy out there that they would want to do it for? Would you put all your chips in the middle? Would you trade, 3, 4 first-round picks for Karl Anthony Towns? Like, to what capacity do they go all in for? I think these are all questions that they have to answer. But I think they're keeping an open mind with the marketplace, and I think they are monitoring which star they want to go all in for.
Shout out to our friends over at FanDuel TV. Shams mentions that the New York Knicks are out there looking for acquiring a superstar level talent. So you have a outspoken and mentally depleted player, young player that I think a lot of teams will take interest in Quentin Grimes, plus an Evan Fournier contract, plus a bunch of draft capital and some other young pieces. The New York Knicks are in the market of making a trade. And I do believe, again, just based on the comments of Q Grimes and the lack of shooting and the lack of role, that Q is a player that is in need of a change. He's in a need of a different scenario. I don't know what the ceiling is for Quentin Grimes. I couldn't tell you. But him being relegated to the role that he's relegated, especially if it's not being successful, is just hindering him and the team for the most part, right? The problem with the Knicks asking or going out there and trying to find a trade is that we're at the point right now where every team kind of feels okay. And again, they said superstar. Sham said superstar, not all-star, right? Not just an all-star. And the few players that might be on the market are, for the most part, just all-star caliber or overlapping talent. You don't want to go trade for Pascal Siakam. You have Julius Randle. They play the same position. They have similar-ish styles of play. You want to go trade for Zach LaVine because he doesn't help you on the defensive side of the ball whatsoever. You don't want to trade for DeMar DeRozan because the spacing is going to be negative. So this is the one time. I know the Knicks are always in the market for a star player, it feels like, but them being, I guess, open about it, at least through Shams, it's just the timing is not great because I'm looking across the association for, again, superstar. He even mentioned Karl Anthony Towns. And again, we mentioned that the Wolves have to make a decision, but you do not have the best start to nearly your franchise history and then say, hey, we're going to trade a player now because in the offseason he's going to be too expensive, right? So Karl Anthony Towns is not that guy either. I don't know who that guy is for them, but it's going to be interesting because they may have to settle for a little bit less than that. They may have to settle for a player that's less than the superstar. And I know that they really want Donovan Mitchell. I don't think he's going to be available anytime soon. The Cavaliers are playing good basketball at the moment. So for a team right now that is sitting at 12-8 with some young players and an all-star caliber player and so on, it's going to be interesting to see what the New York Knicks end up doing. # free Quentin Grimes. How about that? Free Evan Fournier too. EF, is that his nickname? Had said 6 months ago that he wanted to be traded. Him and Furkan Korkmaz said 4 years ago. Free the guys. We just got to note that Zach LaVine is going to be missing the next 3 to 4 weeks with right foot inflammation. Get well soon, Zach. I said on my other podcast, then we'll get out of here. I know it's been a longer episode. I said on my other podcast that I had a conspiracy theory that, not saying that Zach LaVine's not dealing with an injury, but they're slow grinding it because they have verbally already agreed on a trade with somebody. Saying that, hey, most people can't get traded until December 15th, and then another group of people can't get traded until January 15th. We know that this other team might be interested. We might have a verbal agreement. We're just going to sit you on ice until we can contractually make this trade. And now him being out 3 to 4 weeks makes my theory look a little bit better. Now, if we see Zach get traded December 15th or January 15th exactly, then that theory would be true. Zach LaVine has probably played his last minute as a Chicago Bull, and I have conflicting feelings and emotions about it. Enjoy watching him for the last 6 or 7 years, but it might be over. I wish him nothing but the best. I also wish you nothing but the best. Leave a like, subscribe, let me know. Do you agree with my top 10 ranking? Do you disagree? Do you agree that Quentin Grimes need to change the scenery? I don't know. The comment section is there. Spotify 5 stars, Apple 5 stars, and I'll see y'all in a couple days.